Hai, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And happy holiday to everyone. So, it seems like we are not going to be having our live session tonight because of the holiday. And I know most of you will be having plans for today. So, I'm going to provide you with a pre-recorded version of the lecture. So the lecture can be found in your eCampus account, all right? And there's also a video will be uploaded in YouTube. It's actually the same. Okay, so you can just go to log into your eCampus and the lecture video, the slides, and also the task for the day is also embedded in there. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. So we'll be doing chapter 4, which is known as the world of words. All right, words perkataan. Okay. All right. Okay, alright. So the symbolic nature of language ataupun aturan semula jadi sesuatu bahasa itu mengandungi it contains words, right, which whereby words are actually symbols. Right, symbols are actually arbitrary. Okay, arbitrary ni maksudnya random ataupun sangat subjektif. Okay, so there is no natural connection between the symbol and what it represents. So at any point in time, the symbol or what it represents could change. Okay, tak ada sebarang tata cara ataupun maksud yang betul-betul assign, yang kita betul-betul bagi kepada sesuatu perkataan itu. Sesetengah perkataan itu it will always change, alright, the meaning will always change, and sometimes it will remain. It depends on how or the context that we are using it. Alright, the only rule that we have in providing meaning to symbol is only the dictionary. Alright, but dictionary is just how to say this, hanyalah satu record untuk maksud simbol tersebut. Alright, dictionary will also be keep you call that be updated ongoingly. Alright, and symbols are ambiguous. Alright, symbols are anonymous. Alright, not clear, based on unique individual experience. So there is a range of meaning on which most members of a culture agree. Okay, sometimes a particular word, for example, one of my students give me an example of the word bodoh. Alright, for example, bodoh, right? Okay, so if you are not from I think my students from Terengganu, but I know the term there's a term called mi bodoh in Melaka. Alright, so bodoh here means that the ingredient, the what you call that, bahan-bahan dalam masakan tu tak ada apa sangat, simple sangat, mi bodoh macam tu, something like that. Alright, so in maybe if in the culture yang tak biasa dengan perkataan bodoh ni, they assume that okay, mi bodoh mesti tukar, dia nak kata tukang buat ni bodoh ke, tak sedap sangat sampai bodoh betul lah mi ni, but actually it means bodoh here means kosong. Okay, not much ingredient. Okay, alright, and then symbols are abstract, of course. They cannot be touched. Alright, we do not touch symbols that we use the same way we may touch things, macam kita pegang things lah. Alright, so they are very abstract. Okay, so these are the three qualities of symbol: arbitrariness, alright, which means random and subjective. Okay, ambiguity, very vague. Okay, sangat luas, sangat general, right, and also very abstract, tidak boleh disentuh. Okay, principles of verbal communication, right, we give us an understanding of how symbol work. Alright, number one, language and culture will reflect each other. Okay, it reflects set of values, perspective, and belief when we learn to speak and read. Alright, so language and culture that we are brought up to, language dan culture yang kita dibesarkan, yang kita that we belong to, right, it will reflect, okay, the set of perspective and also the value when we learn and also speak. Same goes with the term bodoh that I said just now, or you can say in certain words, for example, in my part of the country, in my place, in my hometown. Right, when people ask you about your wife, they're gonna call it as Orantina. So Orantina here means your wife, alright. But actually, maybe in some certain part of Malaysia, regarding a female as Tina is not it's not good. Actually, it's very disrespectful, for example. Okay, but maybe in Kelantan as well, it's very common to call a wife is your own Orantina, for example. Sorry, saya bagi contoh macam tu. Alright, and then the meanings of language are very subjective. There is no single definition for a symbol. we must interpret them in context of the present interaction to attach meaning, alright, which is often subjective. Jadi meaning kepada perkataan tu same goes to the example of Aretino, and also same goes to the example of mi bodoh over here. Depends on the context and also the culture. Dia takkan ada hanya satu definition. Of course, we always have dictionary, alright, but when we go into context and also culture, alright, that term will always change, alright. Sometimes in certain part of the country, tok and what you call that, for them, tok is for the guys, it's for elderly men, alright. But in my part, tok is for the ladies. Tok one is for the guys, or chair in my part, for example. Okay, so it depends on the culture and also the culture and also the community that you are raised with. Okay, language use is rule guided. Alright, communication rules. Alright, still in using language and also words, we also must, I'm not going to say obey, but we must also follow certain guidelines. Alright, so develop shared understandings of what is happening in a particular interaction and which is appropriate. Number one, we're going to have regulative rules. Alright, it helps us manage the when, how, where, and with whom we talk about certain things. Alright, so basically, regulative here means that we follow certain rules or principles. Alright, so regulative rule ni, for example, we have family rules. Alright, we have family rules. Alright, for example, don't argue at the dinner table. Are you allowed to disagree with your parent or elderlies? Are you allowed to raise your voice with your parents and elderlies? Those are regulative rules, alright? Rules in which we know and help us to manage bila kita nak bercakap, dengan cara macam mana kita nak bercakap, dekat mana kita nak bercakap, dengan siapa kita nak bercakap. Those are regulative rules, and normally they are common in families, okay? And then we have constitutive rules. Right? Constitution or constitutive means that the power to establish or give organized existence to something. We have the power to establish these rules. Constitutive rules means that it defines what messages mean in a particular situation by specifying how to count or interpret specific kind of communication. Alright, for example, constitutive rules is very general. Alright, it doesn't belong only to family members or culture. It is a rule well embedded in every culture, and everyone know this, and everyone has been practicing this. Alright, so kalau kata kita tak tahu benda ni, meaning that we are not very interactive, or we are not the one who always, I mean, maybe kita tak kisah sangat on what people think of us. Alright, so for example of constitutive rules, alright, it can be shown through when you are listening. Alright, when you are listening and also providing eye contact when you are talking. Of course, kita nak orang provide eye contact and also listen to us as well. Okay, kalau mata melilau, pejam mata and everything, it shows disrespect. Alright, it shows disrespect. And then, for example, for lovers or husband and wife, alright, kids and also their parents, for example, you show affection, menunjukkan kasih sayang, kerapatan itu melalui kisses and also hugs, menunjukkan kasih sayang melalui cara tersebut. Alright, and then for example, if you have a good friend of yours ataupun best friend, alright, so kita akan ada a set of constitutive rules whereby we know that, alright, good friend ni will be their term of communication will be very close, giving support, they will always share their opinion, very sincere, very loyal to you. Alright, so these are the example of constitutive rules. Okay. Alright, so these are some principles of verbal communication. Punctuation shapes meaning. Alright, so similarly in interpersonal communication, punctuation defines beginning and ending of interaction episode by Watzlawick, Bevan, and also Jackson. Alright, so we have the demand withdrawal pattern over here. It is a common pattern of conflict, okay, involving people punctuating interaction differently in the demand withdrawal cycle. So dalam demand withdrawal cycle, alright, terjadinya konflik di mana the two people in the conflict, alright, the punctuation is either unclear ataupun didn't happen at all. Alright, punctuation ni macam kita menulis lah, mesti ada punctuation, mesti ada koma, mesti ada berhenti sekejap and everything. Alright, mesti ada full stop. Alright, jadi if in a conflict situation, kalau tak ada punctuation, you can look at example of how let's say an example, a situation of children arguing about who started the fight, siapa yang start dulu. Dia buat saya dulu, cikgu. Bukan, dia buat saya. No punctuation. There's no ending to that one. So in this particular cycle, we can see that, right? I withdraw because you pursue me. I pursue harder because you withdraw harder. I am withdrawing more because you are pursuing harder. I pursue because you withdraw, and the cycle continue. Alright. And one particular example that we can see in real life situation, for example, girlfriend boyfriend lah bergaduh. Kan? Kenapa ni sayang? Tak ada apa. Beritahulah apa salah I. I tak ada benda nak cakap. Meaning that you keep on pushing for answers, alright? You keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. There's no punctuation, alright? And then the person rather than cooperating, sebab dia in younger terms we call as serabut lah kan, serabut kan. Banyak tanya sangat. You must give space, alright? You must give space for the other party to calm down, relax, alright? Try to figure out what to say, try to express his or her opinion, alright? And also try to be cooperative in that particular conflict situation. Okay, kalau kita keep on pushing, they will keep on withdrawing. They will keep on withdrawing. Okay. And then symbolic abilities, alright? Language define phenomena, alright? Because language will help us to shape perception, of course. Alright, sometimes when we hear people who are talking very thick Kelantan ni, cakap Kelantan ni sangat pekat alright, we always assume that ni mesti tak pandai kecek KL ke. English is very poor, people like this for example. But then sekali dia cakap English keluar accent UK apa, tergamam kita. Right, so we can see that language always shapes perception of how we perceive people and also how people perceive us. Okay. Language can also totalize. Alright, totalize here meaning that we fix one symbol to define someone. Alright, ataupun we assign a person with single aspect of their identity. Okay, so let's say this particular guy, a very handsome guy, stable career, handsome pay, alright, big car, owns a house, very well mannered. Unfortunately, he's gay, for example, or homosexual. Alright, we will tend to get rid of all those good characteristics and then kita just assign them, we totalize him with only one characteristic, which is being gay. Not to say that being gay is acceptable, tak kan. Just to show that, alright, regardless of any other attributes atau regardless ataupun apa kita cakap regardless, walaupun adanya a few good qualities in this particular person, but because of this one particular attribute yang stand out, dia being homosexual ni stand out daripada other attributes, kita just assign it as, alright, a homosexual guy. Okay, kita cakap dah dia handsome ke, stable career ke, duit banyak ke, that all we just we put aside and that's it. Alright, we totalize you as only a gay, for example. Okay, and then language shapes and reflects relationship, of course. Okay, of course, the language that you will use with your friends will be different from the language that you use with your partner, with your husband or wife, children, your parents. So sometimes kita takkan pakai the same structure bila cakap dengan mak kita, of course kan. Takkan kita nak cakap kasar-kasar dengan our parents. Sometimes with friends we can always cakap kasar because it will always tend to be jokes, for example, kan. Okay, alright, and then language evaluates. Okay, language reflects and shape perception again. Alright, and language can be loaded, alright, word that strongly change perception and thus meaning. Okay, for example, there's a term for purse or wallet or this yang ni under 18, above 18 sikit lah ni alright, I think I'm not sure in Kelantan but in Kedah, alright, they call it as that purse or wallet is called like this duit, you know. Alright, because back then dulu lah cerita orang tua-tua, alright, our grandma during their time, they always store their money over there, so we call it as that duit. Alright, so when the word is conveyed ataupun dicakap di depan orang-orang ramai, alright, if they do not understand it, they will think that it is a very vulgar word, for example. When you are, you know, getting the content of the coconut, alright, you know, the word that we use over here and also in Kedah as well, wat kelapa, wat nyo, you call this nyo, alright, so that one is also considered vulgar in other culture, but in here it is normal to say that, alright. It is not intended to insult ladies or to be 18 excess or something, alright. It's just because of the culture, alright. One particular word yang maybe For other culture, it's very wow. This is too much, but for us, it's normal to be used. Okay, language can degrade others, of course. Hate speech. All right, language that radically dehumanize member of a particular group. All right. Of course, when we sign names to people, we call them, for example, fat or not ugly or something like that. All right. So we can always um, bring a bad perception and also downgrade other people. All right. And then language also organizes perception, of course. All right. Because it allows abstract thought. All right. Because language is very very vague, sangat sangat unlimited. Alright, so banyak abstractive thought akan terkeluar. Alright, and also it can help, not it can help, it can also cause stereotyping. Alright, it can also cause stereotyping when we heard African Americans speak, yo gangster, what's up, what you gonna do, man, I'm not, something like that. Oh, ni kasar, ni gangster, ni sanada, ni for something like that. Alright, so we can always, sometimes we stereotype this kind of language to a particular group of people. Pakai, bye, mana nak pergi motor gua barai lah, gua nak bawa cikaro. Ni mak repek ni. For example, that kind of language is always assigned. We stereotype that kind of language to only a group of people. Okay. Alright, language also allows hypothetical thought. Alright, hypothetical here means that you are making hypothesis, or you are what you call that, coming out, all right, with early conclusion. All right, thinking about experience and idea that are not part of your concrete or present situation. All right, because we can always think beyond immediate concrete situation. It doesn't have to be kita fikirkan of the situation of the language only to be used now. No, sometimes kita sentiasa fikir what to say in the future as well. All right, because we live in 3 dimension of time: past, present, and also future. And it can also help us to foster personal growth. If we think that the way we communicate now is very bad, unsuitable, next time in the future we can always change the way we communicate, or change the language that we are using. Okay, and it also allows self-reflection. All right, it helps us to monitor our communication and also allow us to manage our image, untuk menjaga air muka dan image kita. Alright, so if back to the previous example, kalau sekarang kita rasa the way we communicate is a bit harsh or vulgar, dulu-dulu kan pernah mencarut banyak lah and everything. So in the future, alright, we will reflect ourselves, self-reflect ourselves, and also try to improve on the way we communicate, the word that we have chosen, and also the language that we are using. Okay, alright, and we also have speech community. Alright, so a speech community, it exists when people share norms about how to use talk and what purposes it serves. Alright, it is defined by shared understanding of how to communicate, alright, rather than countries or geographic location. Maknanya speech community ni, it is more on the shared understanding that you have, bukannya based on your geographic location. Orang Malaysia semua macam ni, orang Indonesia semua macam ni. Alright, orang Malaysia group ni dia macam ni, group rempik dia macam ni, group hip hop dia macam ni, group masjid dia macam ni. So the way they communicate always defined, alright, by their the shared belief, okay, shared belief, pemahaman yang sama yang dia orang ada, and also the culture that they belong to, not just geographic location. Okay, and also we have a gender speech community, right, whereby socialization into gender speech community from a young age. Men and women are socialized into specific gender speech community. So dari kecil lagi, okay, speech community based on gender is already embedded to our children. Alright, guys kena cakap manly sikit. Girls kena lemah lembut, tak boleh kasar-kasar. Kasar sikit, tomboy. Laki lembut sikit, ni lembut ni, macam tu sikit tak boleh. So they need to be trained to be manly for guys. For girls, they need to be trained to be soft spoken and also well mannered, for example. Okay, and then gendered community in practice, women tend to be more expressive and relationship focused, and men tend to be more instrumental and competitive. Okay, so there will always be misunderstanding between gender speech community, because for example, alright, there are some common understandings. For example, when men offer advice to women, alright, when they tell men about their problem, but actually women wants empathy and discussion of feeling before going to solution. Thus men are perceived as uncaring and sensitive. Cakap kat lelaki, penat lah hari ni. Baliklah awal, tidur cepat. Kita kena caring lah sikit, kena ya ke, you penat ke, you dah ni kan, dah makan ke belum? Tak apalah, next time. That is the way how woman wants us to communicate actually, but this is not an overgeneralization, bukan semua. Alright, sometimes, alright, but in general, okay, women tends to be like that and men tends to be more straightforward. Okay. And social media and verbal communication, social media give rise to new words, of course. Ada words yang what talk to you like TTYL, for example, poyo, something, things like that appear in social media, and we keep on learning new words every day. Alright, selfie. Now, the dictionary has already incorporated that word into what? Photo. Tweeting. Kicapan. Macam kicap toyu pula. And then rules governing verbal communication also regulate social media, right? So in social media, sepatutnya we also apply regulative rules and also constitutive rules, the way we communicate. In WhatsApp group, for example, yang ada family, mestilah kita communicate sopan sikit kan. Mestilah we have to address the elderly and everything. Right? Kalau group WhatsApp kawan-kawan ni, kau cakap apa pun kan, for example, right? And of course, constitutive rules, right? Kalau kita WhatsApp kawan minta pendapat, of course we want them to reply immediately and also provide a solution or something like that. Okay. Alright, so guidelines for improving verbal communication: always engage in dual perspective. Okay, always understand the other party or the other person that you are talking or communicating to us. Alright, jangan everything is only about us. Okay, own your feeling and also thoughts. Alright. So rely on I language rather than you language. Alright, meaning that rather than you just put you language, blame. Alright, blame the other person. Put more responsibility on yourself by using I language. Alright. So these are example of how you can use I and also you language. You make me nervous on the job. Cakap awak lah ni, nervous dah saya. When you watch me work, I feel nervous. Bila awak tengok saya nervous lah. Alright, the way you say it and also the tone that you are using, alright, you are putting more reliance or responsibility on yourself, alright. Not just because of you, but it's also maybe partly or 70% because of me as well. Not just 100% putting it or blaming it on you, okay. Show respect for what others say about their thoughts and also feelings, alright. And then strive for accuracy and clarity. Be clear and always clarify the things that you are saying, alright. Be aware of level of abstraction. Janganlah terlalu abstract. Janganlah nak pergi Kota Baru pusing-pusing putih dulu kan. Kota Baru dari jeli masuklah rentang panjang terus, for example. Okay. Use qualify languages. Alright, qualify generalization so that we don't mislead ourselves or others into mistaking a general statement for an absolute one. For example, we always say that men are trash. For example, Abu ditched her girlfriend or left her girlfriend behind. Men are trash. Generalization. Okay. Alright, and then but then we can always try to use indexing. Alright. Whereby indexing is a technique to developed by elite communicators to remind us that our evaluation apply only to specific time and circumstances. Alright. So when you generalize people or men are trash, for example, but then when you index the person get back, right, Abu ditched her girlfriend. Alright. Abu is a man, men are trash, but now Abu is a very good man because he already got married to a very wonderful lady, for example. Meaning that in indexing kita perlu tahu yang apa yang kita assign, apa yang kita overgeneralize, apa yang kita stereotype tu only applicable to that particular time and also to that particular context saja. Mungkin in the future it will not be like that. Alright, mungkin akan sama. But then changes will always happen. Alright, maybe it will not be like that anymore. Maybe it will maintain the same. Alright, so please do indexing when you overqualify a generalization. Okay? Alright. Okay, I think that's all from me. Alright, before we go, okay, I would like to remind you, okay, masih hutang saya lagi untuk tas ni, tak siap lagi. Sekejap Alamak, mana campus ni very slow. Alright. Okay, this one tak buat lagi ni. Alright. Okay. So if you have difficulties in doing like macam leceh lah, nak upload lah YouTube ke apa, tak pandai ke, for example, susah ke, do ask your friends or always do ask me. Okay, and then I will help to guide you in how to upload the video on YouTube. Okay, all right. Or you want me to show example? Okay, wait. All right. Okay, and then don't worry. All right. For today's class or tonight's class, all right, this is the task that you will have to do. All right, regulative rules. All right, help us manage when, how, where, and with whom we talk about certain things. So in this particular task, all right. Okay, let me put it like this. Okay. Alright, for tonight's task, alright, you will only have to write down your answers. Okay, write down your answers. Okay, alright. So the question will be like this: list rules that regulate how you talk with elders, interact at dinner time, have first exchange in the morning, respond to criticism from your supervisor, greet casual friend on campus, talk with professor, and talk with professor. Alright, so share your experience. Right, write down your experience on how you regulate the way you communicate according to this situation or context. Based on situasi-situasi ni macam mana kita apply regulative rules tu? Ada tak cara-cara ataupun rules sendiri yang kita guna when we are communicating, when we are talking with others? Kita cakap macam mana? At dinner time, what are the way that we are talking? Apa rules yang kita tak boleh buat? Mungkin at dinner time tak boleh baloh ke, for example, ataupun dinner time tak boleh cakap langsung ni. Kena respect rezeki and everything. Alright. So please list down the rules. Alright. Of course, macam biasa, at submission, and then just write down your you call that your response down there. Alright, tak adalah record video. Okay. Alright, I think that's all for me for today. Okay, thank you very much. Alright, this one will be uploaded on your campus. There's no class tonight, and I'll see you again next week. Assalamualaikum, and have a very good day, everyone. Bye bye. Happy holiday. Bye bye.